Hello, it is Dr. Lou. In case you have not watched prior videos, I am the lead faculty member who has created the online laboratory classes using kits from Science Interactive. In today's video, I'm going to go over how to make a graph as well as highlight the differences between bar graphs and scatter plots. So today we're going to look at creating a graph. And we're going to look at two kinds of graphs, line graph or a bar graph. And I want to highlight the differences between the two. So for a line graph, sometimes referred to as a scatter plot, we are going to be plotting X, Y pairs of data. Many times the x-axis will be time. For a bar graph, the x-axis is always going to be categories. Let me give you an example. So if we're looking at precipitation versus years. So let's say I want to show an audience the amount of precipitation that occurred over various years. In this particular case, the years is a category. It is not necessarily time. So for example, in 2001, there could be so much precipitation, 2002, so on and so forth. Now, if I am continuously measuring precipitation over time and not discrete years or categories, then I would want to use the scatter plot. So let's go and make a line graph or a scatter plot. So I have a piece of graph paper. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my axes. I'm going to draw my X and my Y axes. There we go. So next, what I'm going to do is actually move that over just a little bit so that it is lined up quite nicely on the graph. There we go. Let's see. Aha. Okay, so next, at the top of every graph, there should be a description of what is going to appear on the graph in the form of a title. Additionally, we need title on the X and Y axis, and the title should contain the units. So if the x-axis is time, then the unit of time that we measured would go next to the title. And then we also need a title for the y-axis, and we need to include units. Then we can go ahead and plot our data on the graph. And as the term line graph suggests, we will now connect our data points. There we go. Notice how when I made this particular plot, I have completely filled the graph or the plot with my data. I have used up the entire X and the entire Y axes. So let me show you a little bit on how to go about scaling everything to use the X and the Y axes. So what you want to do is for your X scale, what I recommend doing for your X scale is taking your X, let's see, what I want to do is take my X scale, we want to take X max minus X min divided by your number of boxes. So in this case, if we count the boxes going across the graph, I'm getting about 1, 2, 3, 4, like about 8 boxes going across. So we could do the same thing for your Y scale. We take your Y max minus Y min, and then we divide by your number of boxes. Now, in this particular case, when we go to set up the axes down at the bottom, we're going to have X min, and over here we're going to have Y min. So we are not going to have the what? The origin 0, 0 is what? Not shown on this particular graph. And it is a big misnomer that on a graph we actually have to what? Plot the origin. Okay. So last, we're going to erase, clear off my magic board here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a bar graph. So I have another sheet of graph paper. I should have kept my axes, but anyway, I'll draw my axes again. There we go. And let's make this a little bit smaller so it will fit. And then we're going to move this so it highlights. There we go. And let's just bring this down ever so slightly. There we go. Okay. So again, all graphs need what at the top? A title. Then we need your title for your what? X axis. And then we need a title for with units for your y-axis. Now notice that I did not include units on the x-axis because we're talking about categories. So now we're going to make our actual graph. So when we make a graph, it is very important to use a ruler so that it is not sloppy and everything looks uniform. So I'm going to actually draw a graph here, a bar I should say. So let's see. Here's a bar. And now what I'm going to do is just move over the bar. It's a little tricky what I'm doing online. There we go. And so notice how I made the bar almost sort of perfectly over the grid lines. And now I'm going to make a second bar to show you. Now that I've made the second bar, I'm going to move that one over slightly. So we're right on top of the grid lines as well. There we go. And oh, it didn't quite make it. That's okay. There we go. Okay, whoops, it's not going to move. The bar doesn't want to move today. There we go. Okay, so notice, not perfect because I'm giving you a sort of demonstration here, but when I made the two bars, they are uniform width, and there is a what? Uniform spacing in between. If I really wanted to make it a little bit easier to see, completely optional, but I could what? Oh, fill in and actually shade in the bar if I wanted to. Not really necessary to shade in the bars, but oh, it's completely fine if you wanted to. Some people like to use a pattern. Anything would be fine. Okay. So, that's how make a bar graph. We went over how to make a line graph or a scatter plot. So before I let everyone go and wrap up this particular video, I want to make one more comment in big print. I'll write it. When we make any of these graphs, we must use, what do you see over here on the side? Must use graph paper. Making a graph with quantitative data is completely meaningless unless we use the graph paper. You may use your own graph paper or you may print the graph paper I have provided you online.